Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith. Will be conducting our commentary for the duration of this coverage. We're broadcasting, as we always do, from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Hope you're all having a good start to your weekend and have something fun and or restful on tap for your Sunday coming up right around the corner. But in the interim, we're very glad to have you with us for our live coverage of the latest mission heading up from the Cape. As you see, SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket standing there in launch position, 59 minutes and counting away from the liftoff, as it is planned right now, of the Starlink 6-72 mission, sending a batch of 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites on their way to low Earth orbit. Before we get started with our usual spiel, do want to make a quick note about one of our family here in the Spaceflight Now community. We are sending our good thoughts to one of our wonderful channel members and moderators, Rick Donner, currently in the hospital right now, and we want to, from all of us here at Spaceflight Now, wish him well and a speedy recovery. So, hope you're out of the hospital soon, buddy. With that, also want to thank the moderators who are here with us in the live chat for this launch tonight. I want to thank Jeff Hansen, Mark Otto, Callistia Lee, Astro Joe for all helping out tonight. Appreciate you being with us for this launch. And want to thank you for wherever you are checking in from. Got a little more than 1,500 of you watching with us live this evening. Let us know in the live chat if you're here with us in Florida or wherever you're watching from around the world. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor as we get things going with the stream just by clicking the like button. Share the stream, allows more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. And we've got the full crew out here tonight getting ready to support the launch if all goes well, this Falcon 9 rocket. Our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, is running the technical operations of the broadcast alongside Mr. John Pisani. Around Bernstein and Michael Kane out and about getting ready to shoot the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket once it makes its ascent. Adam also doing some tracking work tonight. If you're not following the fellas on their social channels, you can find them at X. Adam is at ABurn NYC. Michael Kane, MD Kane Jr. John Pisani at John Pisani Photo. While there, be sure to follow Spaceflight Now simply at Spaceflight Now. You can also find us on Threads, Facebook, and Blue Sky. If this is your first launch with us in just a little while and you haven't seen John with us before and our little family here, not to worry. He's still also with the folks, the fine folks over at Cosmic Perspective. But when it comes to Falcon flights here on the East Coast, we're happy to say that John has joined the Spaceflight Now family. We're also joined this evening with support in launch coverage by our friends Pete Carsons with Max Q Productions, as well as Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images. Just about 55 minutes to go here before the planned launch of this Falcon 9 rocket. We are powered by a wonderful channel member community here on YouTube who make these live launch opportunities possible. So thanks to folks like the Rocket Girl, I Am Lita, Chuck Close, Richard W., Dale K., Ryan Snyder, and many others. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop, that is shop.spaceflightnow.com, access to our member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here at the Cape in 4K. Speaking of the member community, I want to thank Mark Otto and Clisty Lee for each gifting 10 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that. Welcome aboard to our 20 newest channel members. We're glad to have you with us. If you haven't already, be sure to thank Clistia and Mark in the live chat. We hope you decide to stick around with channel membership. Last little bit of housekeeping. If you have a comment or question about this mission or other goings on in the realm of space and spaceflight, you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature. And not only will you be giving us some interesting things to talk about as you cruise on through the count, but you'll be supporting what we do here at Spaceflight Now. And that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. To that end, I want to thank Jeff Hansen for a $10 Super Chat. Thank you, Jeff. He says, go Cape, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Starlink. Godspeed, 1078. 1078 is the tail number of the first stage booster that is flying tonight's mission, Starlink 6-72. It will be launching for a 19th time and, of course, attempting to land safely for a 19th time as well. We'll talk a little bit more about its booster history later on in the broadcast. Also want to thank Chuck Close for very generous $25 super chat. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate the support tonight. And a thanks to Calistia Lee for a $20 super chat as well, who says, best wishes to Rick Donner. We all love you, my friend. Here's to a speedy recovery. Now currently T-minus 52 minutes thereabouts and counting. In generally speaking, about 14 minutes or so, the SpaceX launch director will be making the call on the start of prop load for this mission tonight. So before we get to the point of fueling the Falcon 9 rocket, let's go ahead and talk about what we are anticipating with a nominal countdown and walk you through what we're going to be seeing here over the course of the next 51.5 minutes. Generally speaking, that call on the start of prop load happens at T-minus 38 minutes. The SpaceX does its pull electronically, so they can take this a little bit earlier if they're in a good posture to do so. Whenever they give that go-ahead, tanking of the Falcon 9 starts at the T-minus 35-minute mark. That's when liquid oxygen begins flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage, and a rocket-grade kerosene, RP-1, is loaded on board the Falcon 9's first and second stages. At T-minus 30 minutes, first stage helium load begins. Same on the second stage a few minutes afterwards. That cryogenic helium is important because it's used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. T-minus 23 minutes is when the second stage RP-1 tank is full. Then at T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds is the strong back chill down process. That's when SpaceX is conditioning the feed lines there at the pad, preparing them to support second stage liquid oxygen load. We see this visually manifest as the so-called big vent, which starts here at pad 40 at about T-minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds. Second stage LOX load will begin at the 16-minute mark. T-minus 50 minutes and counting here on the countdown clock. On the timeline at the 7-minute mark before liftoff, the engine chill sequence gets underway. That's when SpaceX flows a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping to protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during the startup sequence. 6 minutes out, the first stage kerosene tank is full. And at T minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strong back retract sequence get underway. That's when SpaceX opens up the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings, and the transporter erector, for the strong back, reclines a few degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket and stays in that position until liftoff. At that point, it'll pull back in a much more rapid fashion to clear the way for the vertical climb of the Falcon 9. 3 minutes before liftoff, the first stage liquid oxygen tank is full. Same is true on the second stage a minute afterwards, at which point the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is in startup, control of the countdown is handed over from the Falcon 9's onboard computer, or from the ground sequencer to the onboard computers, and the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. 45 seconds before launch, the SpaceX launch director will verify that they're go to proceed. T minus 3 seconds is when the engine ignition command is issued. And if all 9 Merlins are healthy and ignite, the command will be given for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9 rocket for a T0 liftoff. Coming up here at 11:07 p.m. Eastern, 03:07 UTC, or in just about T minus 48 minutes and counting. Roughly 10 minutes away from SpaceX launch director making the call on the startup prop load tonight. As a reminder for those who may have forgotten, next week is, of course, the 40th annual Space Symposium in Colorado. We'll be heading out west for that conference. It's one that takes course over the course of about 4 days from Monday through Thursday. Very much looking forward to meeting a lot of folks there, doing some good interviews, getting some interesting video to share with you all. And hopefully some of you will be there as well. And if you happen to see me cruising around the conference hotel from one booth to another or from one speaker to another, be sure to flag me down and say hello. It's always great to meet all of this community as much as possible, that is, out in the real world. Just a hair under 46 minutes to go before liftoff tonight. Taking a look at the live chat real quick. Want to thank channel member Ryan Snyder for a $10 super chat, saying thanks Will, mods, and the whole Spaceflight Now team that make this channel so great. Thank you for the kind words, Ryan. Also want to thank channel member Sulfur for lunch, marking 8 months with us now at the mission specialist level, who says another month to the collection. Glad to have you still with us, Sulfur. And a thanks to Don Flea for a $10 super chat. Appreciate the support tonight, Don. Glad to have you with us. As we're now just about 10 minutes away from the point of propellant load, assuming SpaceX is getting ready to give that go ahead, let's talk for a moment about where this Falcon 9 is going to be flying once it leaves the pad. Let's talk a little trajectory, shall we? Falcon 9 rocket going to be lifting off from Space Launch Complex 40 or Slick 40 here on Florida's Space Coast. Following the same trajectory as the other missions heading to the sixth or 12th group lifting off from the Space Coast, this Falcon 9 rocket's going to be flying in a southeasterly trajectory following that green arc that you see there on your screen. The Falcon 9 first stage booster, again, tonight they are using B-1078. It's going to follow that red arc you see there and target a landing on the drone ship called Just Read the Instructions. If successful, this will be the 114th booster landing on that particular drone ship and the 427th booster landing to date. I mentioned that this will be B-1078's 19th flight to space and back. SpaceX is working to certify its first stage boosters for up to 40 flights apiece. Same is true with their payload fairings. Each half, once it is deployed from the Falcon 9 rocket, will gently drift down to the waters of the Atlantic Ocean under the support of steerable parachutes. SpaceX saves about $6 million per recovery effort, or at least that was the case back in, oh gosh, I believe this presentation was early 2024, late 2023, and they described that $6 million mark, so that may have changed in one direction or another by now. But once down in the waters, SpaceX uses one of their recovery vessels to scoop them up, bring them back through Port Canaveral, and then over to Hangar X here at the Kennedy Space Center, where they will be refurbished and turned around for future flights. Of course, the only part of the Falcon 9 rocket that is intentionally not reused is the second stage. Falcon 9's upper stage is expendable. That's part of what they are working towards with their significantly larger Starship rocket is a reusable upper stage as well as the booster. Speaking of Starship, the next flight of Starship is set to use a flight-proven booster for the first time. Booster number 14 taking another trip up to space and back and is reflying 29 out of the 33 Raptor engines at the base of that rocket. SpaceX just recently conducted a static fire test of that Super Heavy booster. Still waiting to see a static fire test of the ship upper stage that will be used for Flight 9. And of course, the conclusion of the mishap investigation from Flight 8 that is still outstanding. Just less than a week ago, the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, closed out the Flight 7 mishap investigation, but Flight 8 still remains open at this point, and it either needs to be closed or there needs to be basically enough safety assurance presented by SpaceX and granted by the FAA that they can proceed with Flight 9 while the Flight 8 mishap investigation remains open. If you recall, that's the circumstances under which they had the Flight 8 mission while Flight 7's mishap investigation was still outstanding. With just about 40 minutes to go before the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket, taking a cue from Callisti Lee, since I neglected to do so at the top of the broadcast. Just a quick reminder for the rules of the live chat here to help our moderators out. Be sure to be respectful of your fellow launch watchers who are here in the live chat. We ask that you not use all caps. Please converse in English so that our moderators can respond appropriately. And as a reminder, this is not a politics podcast or YouTube channel, so we ask that you refrain from delving into any overt political discussion here in the live chat. Plenty of other venues for that, but this is not one of them. As we're about 39 minutes away from liftoff now at this point, just as a quick reminder, SpaceX does have backup opportunities within this launch window that extend out to 2:40 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. That is, as long as SpaceX has not begun fueling its Falcon 9 rocket. Once tanking gets underway, SpaceX does not have the option to hold the countdown because it uses a super cold densified liquid oxygen on its Falcon 9 rocket. That, in essence, means they tank their vehicle in a load and go style. So they're loading up liquid oxygen and RP1 pretty much down to the minute before they're ready to launch. As you recall, the countdown timeline tanking concludes at the 2-minute mark. So if for some reason there were to be an issue either on a technical front with either the rocket, the payload, or the ground systems, or if there were a weather conflict at the point in which fueling was underway, then that would result in SpaceX needing to stand down from launching and targeting a backup opportunity. Their next available one would be tomorrow, starting at 10:14 p.m. Eastern. I mentioned technical reasons or the weather. The weather looking quite lovely this evening. A bit windy, though, as you might have been able to tell with one of our shots. You could see the American flag. I think it's still mostly visible. Yeah, if we can go to that shot here by the Tarn Basin, you can see the flag flapping in the breeze. Winds were forecast to be between 28 to 28 miles per hour per the 45th Weather Squadron's forecast issued yesterday. And the only constraint to launch are the liftoff winds. But meteorologists believe that there would be a greater than 95% chance of favorable weather at liftoff this evening. And so far, we are trending in a good direction. If for whatever reason SpaceX did need to stand down from a launch attempt tonight, backup windows weather also just as good, greater than 95% chance of favorable conditions at liftoff. Liftoff winds remain the watch item for tomorrow as well, but they are slightly lighter in strength tomorrow as compared to today. And with a minute to go before the start of tanking, if SpaceX is still aiming for that liftoff at 11:07 p.m. The good news is that there's not a lot of heat distortion between our camera and the rocket this evening, which means we should be able to discern pretty easily that fueling has begun. Also, because this is a booster that is flying for a 19th time, it's built up a fair amount of soot, which does help with seeing the contrast between the rocket as it appears now and once the super cold liquid oxygen begins flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage. SpaceX has long since stopped notifying the public through its social media of when it starts fueling Falcon 9 rocket that is launching one of its Starlink missions, but you should be able to see signs of fueling right around the 33, 32-minute mark. If you note, we're just past T-minus 35 minutes, so at this point, if they're still targeting 11:07 p.m., tanking has now begun. Again, we'll be watching for more definitive signs of fueling to give you more of an assurance that liquid oxygen and RP1 is actually flowing on board the Falcon 9's rocket. Again, not much heat distortion tonight, a little bit of waviness there, but you can clearly make out the lettering of the word SpaceX written there vertically on the rocket. You can even see the American flag and the Falcon logo up near the top of the first stage booster. What we're watching for now in the next minute and a half to 2 minutes or so is just beneath the X in SpaceX. If you can see where the gradient on the rocket kind of changes from a charcoal gray if you're going from the bottom to the top. Then there's that horizontal line that's a little bit lighter. And then the X, where that horizontal line that's a little bit lighter in tone, that's where we'll start to see a frost line form and some vapor as well as the super cold densified liquid oxygen, dramatically colder than the Florida air around it, which is why we'll see the vapor once it starts tanking. Now, T minus 32 minutes and some change. We're definitely seeing some vapor now, which means SpaceX is in fact tanking its Falcon 9 rocket, which is locking them into an attempt at least at 11:07 p.m. Eastern, 03:07 UTC. Just past T minus 30 minutes here. At this point, SpaceX is also loading cryogenic helium into the pressure vessels on the Falcon 9's first stage. They'll do the same on the second stage coming up here in about 3-ish minutes. Taking a look at the live chat. First off, want to thank the more than 3,800 of you who are watching with us live this evening. If you haven't already, you could do us a solid just by clicking the like button and share the stream. Lots more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage as we continue to roll on through the count. Also want to thank a few folks in the live chat. Thanks to channel member and moderator Astro Joe for marking now 33 months with us as a channel member. Says thanks, Will. I think that was in reference to re-emphasizing the rules of the chat. So you're quite welcome. Rocket Prophet marking 27 months with us at the pad leader level, saying howdy, mods rule. And yes, they do. I also want to thank Rocket Prophet for gifting 10 Spaceflight Now memberships and Gunnar S for gifting 5 as well. So to our 15 newest gifted channel members, welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us. Be sure to thank Rocket Prophet and Gunnar in the live chat if you haven't already. And we hope you decide to stick around with channel membership past the month you were just gifted. And as a reminder to everyone else in the live chat, when someone gifts membership, it is entirely random to whom it goes. So we have no control over that, and neither do the people who are gifting channel membership. They are just extending generosity. Hike all over with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Hike. I also want to welcome in new channel member Jackie Coombe, joining us with membership at the pad leader level. Welcome, Jackie. We're glad to have you with us. And I dig I think that's a dolphin or a manatee in your picture there. One of the two. Just a little under 25 minutes to go before the planned launch of this Falcon 9 rocket. As we mentioned earlier, the first stage booster B1078 is going to be launching for a 19th time on this flight tonight. So before we go ahead and see it soar, let's take a moment to talk about where it has been before. Apologies for that unforced rhyme. B1078's launch career began on March 2nd of 2023 when it sent up 3 astronauts and a cosmonaut to the International Space Station on the Crew 6 mission, launching the Dragon named Endeavour. That was followed up by a pair of O3B M-Power satellites that lifted off on April 28th of 2023 on behalf of one of SpaceX's oldest customers, SES. Off to Starlink land we go for 4 flights. We have Starlink 6-4 on June 4th, 6-8 on August 7th, 6-16 on September 16th, and 6-31 on December 3rd. That was followed up by a mission for the U.S. Space Force, USSF 124, which lifted off on Valentine's Day of last year. Back to Starlink land we go for a little bit. We had 6-46 on March 25th, 6-53 on April 23rd, 6-60 on May 28th, 10-2 on June 23rd, 10-6 on August 2nd. That was followed up by the Block 1 Bluebird satellites launched on behalf of AST Space Mobile on September 12th of last year. And then back to Starlink land we go to bring us into today. We had Starlink 10-13 on October 30th, 6-76 on November 27th, 12-6 on December 31st, 12-9 on February 8th, and most recently Starlink 12-16 on March 15th. No need to be aware of the Ides of March. In that case, it was a nominal liftoff and landing from the pad you see here on your screen to the drone ship that you'll see the booster make its targeted landing on, coming up about 8 minutes after liftoff. Assuming all goes well with the remaining countdown we have today, this will be the fastest turnaround for this particular booster. Its previous turnaround record was 26 days, going from the launch of Starlink 6-60 to 10-2 in the late spring, early summer. It's just a 22-day turnaround here. All goes well. As we're approaching the start of the big event, want to thank channel member Jeff Hansen for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships, Laura Williams for gifting 1 after becoming a channel member. So welcome aboard to our 6 new gifted channel members and to Laura. We're glad to have you all with us. If you were gifted a channel membership, be sure to thank Jeff and Laura in the live chat if you haven't already. And we're just about 20 seconds from seeing the start of the big event as SpaceX is conditioning the feed lines prior to the start of liquid oxygen load. And there you see the big event now kicking off. Just under 18 minutes to go before the planned launch of this Falcon 9 rocket. We've got about a minute or so left on this venting. When that wraps up at T minus 16 minutes, then we'll begin liquid oxygen load on the second stage. Taking a look at the live chat here, I see our moderator, Aussie Space Girl, is also joining us. Appreciate you being here and marking 25 months with us as a channel member at the pad leader level, noting that the longer you are a member, the color of your star changes, which is pretty nifty. As you see, the big vent has wrapped up, just a little trailing off venting here at this point. Second stage LOX load is about to begin. With just about 13 minutes left to go before the flight of this Falcon 9 rocket, let's go ahead and talk about SpaceX's workhorse vehicle, the Falcon 9. Before we do, though, want to thank channel member Pierce Mama for gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that level of generosity. To our 5 newest channel members, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you with us. Also want to thank S.E. Robinson Jr. joining us with the gifted membership this evening. Glad to see you here tonight and appreciate your growing our channel member community here. To our newest 6 gifted channel members, I should say. Welcome aboard to all of you. Glad to have you with us. Coming back to the Falcon 9 rocket, it stands at 70 meters or 229 feet tall and has diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. Majority of that is made up by the Falcon 9's first stage booster. Again, the booster flying tonight is B-1078. It has flown 18 times before, going for flight number 19 this evening. At the base, the first stage are 9 Merlin engines, which burn a rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs that will be used to land the first stage on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Comes a little more than 8 minutes after liftoff. Above the first stage is the inner stage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core, which is surrounded by carbon fiber. In the image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere, tail first like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches that attach to the Falcon 9's second stage. And at first stage main engine cutoff, high-pressure helium is used to release those latches, and 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. Also, the second stage engine nozzle is housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage of a Falcon 9 rocket powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine, or an MVac engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle which is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, hence the name. It produces more than 220,500 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight, placing the 28 Starlink V2 Mini satellites into their intended orbit. The MVac engine burns the same propellant mix, that being RP1 and liquid oxygen, just like the first stage. Following the deployment of the Starlink satellites, that upper stage engine will ignite for one final time on a deorbit burn, helping to drive the upper stage back into the atmosphere where it's intended to burn up and help eliminate the risk of creating any unnecessary space debris on this mission. Finally, at the top of the Falcon 9 stack are the payload fairings, each flying for an unknown time tonight, since SpaceX typically doesn't advertise the flight history for its payload fairings, at least on Starlink missions, that is. The fairings are made up of a carbon composite material and stand 13.1 meters or 43 feet tall, and are 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. Fairing house will be recovered a little further downrange from where the first stage booster lands on the drone ship. Once they splash down in the water, they'll be scooped up, brought back through Port Canaveral to Hangar X here at the Kennedy Space Center, where they will be refurbished and turn around for future flights. Less than 9 minutes to go to the planned launch of this Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 6-72 mission. And while our eyes remain affixed to the pad at the moment, we do have our friend Pete Carsons with Max Q Productions keeping his telescopic eye to the sky, taking a look at one of our celestial neighbors, taking a look at the red planet Mars. Obviously, the target of a lot of fascination and future missions coming down the pike, up to and including, of course, future ambitions with SpaceX's Starship rocket program and many others that are looking forward towards robotic and eventually human missions on the red planet. It's unclear if the next time that Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket will fly, it will carry the Escapade satellites. But at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, those twin satellites with science instruments developed by UC Berkeley will fly out to Mars for a multi-year mission in orbit. Originally, they were going to be the payload on board the inaugural flight of New Glenn, but given the additional time the rocket needed for finalizing development and getting ready to launch, the decision was made by NASA to not fuel the satellites, and instead Blue Origin opted to fly a demonstration of its Blue Ring technology. Just under 7 minutes now, the engine chill process on the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon 9 first stage is now underway as we are just at the top of the hour here, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. over on the West Coast. Oh, 0300 UTC for those around the world. In about 10 seconds or so, the first stage kerosene tank should be full. And in about a minute, we'll be getting pad level views of the Falcon 9 rocket, courtesy SpaceX, and we should be getting mission audio as well. T minus 5 minutes and counting.
Nine tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
And as you just heard, we're now getting mission audio from SpaceX as well as pad level views.
Strong back retract has started.
And you hear the call for a strong back retract. A little bit of housekeeping here. A little bit of housekeeping here. You'll note the clock in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, a little bit different from what you're seeing in the big box, which is right now the SpaceX feed. Clamp arms opening up just beneath the payload fairings. The reason for the time discrepancy is our clock is in real time. What you're seeing from SpaceX is coming in on a slight delay. So as long as we have tracking views from our cameras on the ground, we'll be making callouts in real time and then switching to the SpaceX timeline of things once we are reliant exclusively on the SpaceX onboard cameras. Now T minus 3 minutes and counting. At this point, the first stage liquid oxygen tank should be full. Should be hearing a call from SpaceX on that momentarily.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Good call there. Waiting for a similar call on the second stage liquid oxygen tank. That should be coming up in about 30 seconds is when that process will wrap up in real time. Should hear the call out for that roughly 10 seconds or so thereafter. Two minutes and counting.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
With that, the Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. That additional venting you're seeing there in the live picture on the right-hand side of your screen are the ground gas closeouts. SpaceX is removing any remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines.
Ground gas closeouts.
Good call there. Coming up on the final minute before liftoff here. Next call we're expecting is for the Falcon 9 to be in startup. Control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers, and the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
With that good call, we are just awaiting the SpaceX launch director to give their go for launch. Should hear that call in the next few seconds.
Launch director, go for launch.
And with that, we are now just about 30 seconds away from seeing this Falcon fly. Again, this booster is going to be soaring for a 19th time, targeting a touchdown on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. T-minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds. And here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on Starlink 6-72. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Chamber pressure is nominal.
Falcon 9 power and telemetry are nominal.
Now a minute into flight, the
Throttle
Falcon
down.
9
Falcon 9
approaching
is supersonic.
max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
Throttle up.
Some great work by the tracking
Maximum
team tonight.
aerodynamic pressure.
And that call for max Q. Coming up next, SpaceX will be thermally conditioning the Merlin vacuum engine. Should hear a call out for that soon.
And vac engine chill is underway.
With that good call, SpaceX preparing to ignite that Merlin vacuum engine. We're coming up on a few events in fairly rapid succession. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, at about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds. That will be followed seconds later by stage separation and then the ignition of that Merlin vacuum engine, the start of its first burn. Payload fairings will be jettisoned just before the 3-minute mark. Less than 10 seconds to MECO.
Vehicles on a nominal trajectory.
MECO. Stage separation.
MECO.
And second stage engine start.
Stage separation confirmed.
INVAC ignition.
And good calls, good visuals from the onboard SpaceX cameras. Coming up on fairing separation. And there go the payload fairings.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Can see a little bit of Florida Space Coast there, just off the left-hand side of the grid fin. And a good view of those 28 Starlink V2 Mini optimized satellites as the Falcon 9 second stage continues to climb. Now a little more than 3.5 minutes into flight, still good ground level views of the upper stage. Coming up, the next event that we're looking for, the next big milestone, will be the first stage entry burn, when SpaceX uses 3 of the Merlin engines on the first stage booster to begin to slow
vehicles are on a nominal trajectory.
that vehicle down. And a good confirmation that both the first and second stages remain on a nominal trajectory. First stage booster appears to be reaching its apogee now. It just passed it at 115 kilometers. Now starting to make its descent. Now 5 minutes into flight. Less than a minute away to the start of the entry burn. Given the clarity this
Both
evening,
vehicles continue to follow a nominal trajectory.
we may be able to see the entry burn with our tracking cameras on the ground. Don't want to make any hard guarantees on that, though. We'll do our best to capture it, but just sometimes the conditions just aren't quite right. We will do our level best. About 10 seconds to entry burn start. And the entry burn should be underway in real time.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And Pete
Stage 1
with the entry
MTS
burn.
is
Well
safe.
done. Looks like Adam with the tracker has it as well. Good job to the tracking team. It's burn wrapping up here in the next few seconds. There's the conclusion of that entry burn in real time. Still seeing it from the SpaceX onboard cameras coming in again on a slight delay.
Entry burn shut down.
And with the conclusion of that entry burn, we're now looking toward the landing burn. A single Merlin engine will come back to life.
Both stages are on a nominal trajectory.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
Now 7 minutes into the flight from the SpaceX timeline of things. That landing burn set to begin about 40 seconds from now. Starting at
Stage
roughly
1 transonic.
T plus 7 minutes and 51 seconds. The first stage booster now traveling below the speed of sound. That was the call you just heard.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Seco.
And with the call of SECO, didn't hear the call out for a nominal orbit insertion, but assuming that did in fact take place, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket will now continue on a coast phase until about T plus 54 minutes and 10 seconds. There will be a brief 1-second burn of the upper stage engine to help circularize the orbit. Then the Starlink satellites on board will be deployed at T plus 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 18 seconds post liftoff. We're going to come to our mission stats here in just a second, but want to quickly thank channel member and moderator Clistia Lee for a very generous $20 super chat. Thank you, Clistia. Says go Falcon 9, go B1078, go Starlink 6-72 at Astra. And the mission now 10 minutes on is certainly on good footing so far. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at these mission stats as they currently stand. The good liftoff and landing, that was actually the 19th flight of B1078. Little typo there. This was the 456th Falcon 9 launch to date, the 39th of 2025. This is SpaceX's 395th Falcon booster reflight for the launch of a booster that has flown at least once. Slight correction there too. This is the 398th booster reflight. 39th orbital launch of the year so far for SpaceX. This was the 140th orbital launch within the last 365 days. The 243rd orbital launch from Pad 40 and the 297th orbital flight overall from that pad. Here's where the bar chart currently stands for SpaceX on the year so far. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 114th booster landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. That marked the 340th drone ship landing for SpaceX so far. And the 427th overall SpaceX booster landing to date. Finally, with some industry stats, this was the 29th orbital launch from Florida. the 40th from U.S. soil, the 45th from a U.S. rocket company, and the 70th from around the world. Still just one orbital launch failure on the year, and here's where our pie chart now stands. And with that, want to thank folks for being here with us tonight. Want to extend a thanks to our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images and to Pete Karstens with Max Q Productions. A thanks to our photographers Adam Bernstein and Michael Kane, and to John Pisani and Stephen Young for running the technical operations of the broadcast tonight. Want to thank our moderators in the live chat, Astro Joe, Callistia Lee, Jeff Hansen, Aussie Space Girl for all helping us out, Mark Otto as well. And one last thought of healing towards our moderator, Rick Donner, who is in the hospital right now. We'll send good thoughts and a speedy recovery for him soon. As Callistia reminds folks in the live chat to see a regularly updated schedule of all of our upcoming launches, go ahead and head on over to spaceflightnow.com and just click the Launch Schedule tab. Looking forward to seeing some of you over at Space Symposium in Colorado next week. And with that, I want to thank, last but certainly not least, you for wherever you've been watching from. We hope to see you back here with the next launch coming up. I believe is on Monday. I will unfortunately be wrapped up with the comings and goings of the conference, but we will leave you in the very capable hands of commentary duties by our very own Stephen Young. So be sure to give him love and support with the launch coverage of Starlink 11, National 11 coming up on Monday, lifting off from Vandenberg Space Force Base. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others. We will see you next time, folks. Until then, bye-bye.